Welcome back, everybody, to this glorious Monday. With me, as always, we got Clayton Scalina, Kev Nevick, and today's guest host is Justin Flemings. So, yeah, we wanted to bring Justin on and get to know him and get to know about Sublife. So, everybody, meet Justin.
Hello, everybody.
Uh,
Welcome, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here, guys.
yeah, the little bit about that I know about you is like you've been doing mixed martial arts for about 18 years. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've been at this for this is going on I'm in my 19th year now. Started in MMA many moons ago, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
long time. And just kind of stuck with it.
that's awesome. So what got you into the mixed martial arts world?
True story. I was a athlete all through school. I played baseball most of my life. Played in college a little bit, and then it was college when I realized I didn't really want to go that route anymore. It was too much of a job. The fun was gone. So I came home and I still had the athlete in me. So I needed to find something. And I was watching at that time. I think the UFCs were at like UFC 50, roughly somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started watching that and I was like, hey, well, me and my brothers, all we did growing up anyway was fight and wrestle and, backyard face about going into dog poop and all that fun stuff. Like we had it pretty rough in the beginning,
Yeah.
but no, I was watching the UFC and I thought, you know what? Like I said, I got a little bit of little man syndrome. I walk around about 145 pounds. So I was like, I'm going to give this a shot, and try it out. And it's been life ever since. Definitely had a hard start, for the first couple of years being small. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, man, I just it all started in the backyard with my brother. Like a lot of stories, just my brother, a couple of friends, trying stuff out, beating each other up. My two of my friends were
Yep.
wrestlers, so obviously they did most of the beating. It seemed like for the first 3 years I was the nail every practice.
Yep. I know
But
that.
but yeah, just it started naturally in the backyard with some friends and my brother, and then blossomed from there. I actually lost my first MMA fight, so that made me find a real academy, and then I just kept going. I kept grinding. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's what mixed martial arts is about. It's like you grind, and especially in the beginning, you practice, you learn, you get beat up, you get
yeah,
put in the mat and everything, and then you just learn from it.
yeah, right, yeah, and that's what it was, man. It was like I had this thought of myself that in the beginning was bigger than myself. I viewed myself bigger. I could do more than I thought I actually could, and martial arts kind of proved that to me. Like it slapped me back a little bit. It
Mhm.
checked my ego, and it showed me like, okay, you have to find the correct answers. You have to find the right answers to really keep moving forward. You can't half-ass stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You have to be all in. And martial arts is one of those things that if you're a hobbyist, it's okay, you can learn it. But if you're a competitor, it's different. You can't half it. You can't half it at all. You have to be
Yep.
all in, and you have to try to constantly find new avenues to win. If you're not finding those right answers, you're not going to. So
Yep.
that's what really drew me to it. It was the constant progression and the constant bettering of yourself. Like you're always going to be a new version as long as you keep going and you keep learning. So that was the beautiful
Yep.
part of it for me.
Yeah, that's why I love it. I grew up. I did started wrestling my in middle school. I think end of eighth grade year, and went on with that throughout high school. And just you learn so much. It's all about how much work you're put in, how much you're coachable, and willingness to bounce back from all the hard lessons that you learn. It
Yeah.
teaches you so
Yeah.
much about life. And I
Right.
carried that into mixed martial arts too. It just
Yeah.
teaches you so much.
Well, when you got a big sweaty guy on top of you or whatever, even a girl, I've been beat up by girls, trust me.
Yeah.
Like they're putting a bunch of pressure on you, they're cranking on you, and you have to breathe through it. You have to relax and realize you are okay. That transfers directly into life. It's going to be a lot easier to nail this interview later today than it is to be underneath a 300-pound person trying to smash me through the floor. It
Yeah.
definitely makes life a little easier.
Yeah. So did you I saw you had like a couple like grandmaster grappling championships. Did you do like the absolute, or did you like do
Yeah, I like to. So when I first started this, it was all. So one thing that got me into it, to drop back a little bit on the story of how I started, my brother-in-law and myself and two of my friends were out at a club having fun. We were young, 21 years old, just having the time of our lives. And I look over, and the next thing you know, my brother and two friends are in a fight, and it's the whole dance floor, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
funny because at that time I'm 37, and at that time, like, the whole "you got served" and all that stuff was running. So it's probably a damn dance battle that went awry somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I it like broke up, and my brother-in-law got hit by this guy, blindsided him, dropped him, and I went right over to pick him up. And when I picked him up, his eye was already swelled shut and everything. He had broken his orbital bone. There was a puddle of blood.
Wow.
And like I said, I'm 145 pounds. And at this point in my life, to be honest, I was a little younger. Probably shouldn't even have been in there. Right. But this is when I started my martial arts journey, was because I felt like there was nothing I could do. And my friends are getting beat up. My brother-in-law he has to go to the hospital. I'm trying to get him out of there. It was a really scary time in my life where it made me question what I would be able to do if I was in that situation. And here I was, and there was nothing I could do. These guys were huge. I just felt helpless, and I didn't want to see my friends go through that. So I told myself, I'm going to do something. I can't just be having fun and meandering through life, like, just partying and having a good time, So I just kind of was like, listen, I need to do something. So I found my friends, got my brother, and I was like, hey man, teach us some wrestling. I think I'm going to try some martial arts, but I don't want to go to an academy without knowing anything. And so I started to learn wrestling from them, and that was not fun because these guys are heavyweight All-Americans in college and stuff, and like I said, smashing me into my own backyard.
Yep.
But that really was the ball that got it rolling for me. Like, I have to learn. If something like that happens, I do not want to watch my friends and family go through this and not be able to do something about it.
Yep.
So for me, it was always life or death situations. Every fight I had was, am I going to be able to stop this person from hurting my family if I had to? So the absolutes, getting back to the absolutes, I love doing the absolutes because I'm small, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to have some huge guy attack me out of nowhere. I have to know how to deal with that. I have to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I'm not going to lie to myself and be like, yeah, like this is definitely going to work on everybody. No, that's not the case. A lot of the time, that's not the case. So I put myself into those tournaments on purpose. Like, most of the time you're going to see me doing absolutes. I do better against bigger people than I do guys my own size, simply because we move faster and we can do more.
Yeah.
So bigger guys are a little more predictable, so it's a little easier sometimes.
Yeah. I get
Depend.
that.
It's all subjective. It's all subjective, but there's guys out there that I couldn't do nothing to,
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. What got me into it was my cousin. He was a couple years older than me, and around middle school age, he did wrestling before I even thought about it, and he would just put me in all kinds of moves, and I'm like, I'm tired of getting beat up from you.
I mean, those are you wrestlers. You're not nice. You're not nice. You put on this persona of nice, but then when they hit the mats, man, it's just straightforward and there's no regard. They're gonna smash you into the mat, and they're gonna take you down as much as they can and be as heavy and as hard as they can go the whole time. Their cardio is second to none.
Yeah. I got into with demolition and started boxing and doing all that.
Yeah,
and learning some jiu-jitsu, and I was doing that for the past probably about 4 years. So I just do it just to train, keep me healthy, and but I love combat sports. It teaches you so much.
Yeah, it's never ending.
Yeah, I did. I signed up for jiu-jitsu a couple months ago. It's expensive, but I love it.
Yeah, it can be. And that's one of the things in the beginning that really held me back was I couldn't afford it. So I was literally like searching online for places that was within my price range, which was very low,
Yeah.
just because I was living on my own, working, like I just didn't have it, And I ultimately I was messaging one person, and they were giving me the prices, and then my black belt actually kind of snuck in, and he seen that I was messaging them, and he shot me a private message and kind of swayed me to go his way. And he was cool enough to work out that if I taught MMA and kickboxing, he would give me free jujitsu. So so Noah, our black belt for Black Market, the guy who basically the founder of Black Market Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he did me a solid, and we've been together ever since.
That's
I
awesome. Yeah.
loyalty's huge for me.
Oh, yeah.
Someone who does something for me, I'm never gonna forget that.
Yep, absolutely. And I
That's
feel like
awesome.
you get that a lot in the combative world.
Yeah.
Is you find really great people, and
Oh yeah.
down to earth. People may think you're like big and scary, but no,
Well, no, yeah, we know that, a little guy like me can beat us up in no time. I've been, like I said earlier, I've been beaten by plenty of girls. So, we check
Yeah.
that ego as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Great.
Makes me nervous when it's interview time. I don't know about you, Clayton, but every once in a while I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I word things very carefully. All right.
I made sure my door was locked before we started. We're good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Start hearing the door jingle.
Right,
It's coming for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be my kids. That's what I'm hiding from.
Yes. So, did your kids they take to it right away when you introduce them, or?
So my son, yeah, he did. Which this is funny. COVID started. He's 2.5 years old, and we don't know what's going on with life at this point, right? Like everybody kind of felt that in the beginning, and didn't know what's coming next, whether I'm going to be doing martial arts ever again, like. So I pulled the mattress out into the living room. He's 2.5, and the first thing I showed him was a seonagi. So an arm throw, like some wrestlers call it Jap Wizard or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But so he learned that at 2.5, and but now he's 5, and he's got 9 medals in jiu-jitsu.
Awesome.
He just won his first gold. He's competed against 6-year-olds to 8-year-olds. Like he's actually just came in the room. He's getting a drink of chocolate milk. But yeah, he's a little dog, man. He loves it. He wants to do it. But there's actually a video of him kickboxing with the Demolition Fight Team guys when we went down there last week. He was out there for a half hour straight doing rounds with them. He does judo, he does wrestling, he does jiu-jitsu, and he wants to be a pro wrestler. We have a pro wrestler who comes here, and he just looks up to him, big time. He actually wrestled for AEW like a week or two ago.
That's
Kev's
Kev's magic.
Pro wrestling, you say, huh?
Yeah. His name is Brandon Day, but he just changed it to the Unchained King Brandon Day. Like he's starting to pop off with NWA. He's been in the wrestling game for a long time. Used to train with Taz. He's a great person. Great for you guys to have on the show if you know.
Hey,
you
yeah,
Hey.
absolutely. I would love to call. We end this show every Monday with the Wrestling Minute, hosted by this guy right here.
Yeah,
Big
man.
pro wrestling fan, so
Awesome.
would love.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And hey, while we're talking about some videos, and shout out to Brandon Kelly, who's put a video in there. But Pity asked, I'm not sure if I missed it or not, but where can I find some videos of Justin kicking butt? See, I told you we're gonna be above board with the language here. No worries. But hey, where can Pity and other folks in our audience, keep the questions coming? By the way, we appreciate them, guys. But where can people check out some of your footage?
You can. I got some on YouTube, and then obviously my Facebook page. I wasn't ever one, so I'm pretty old school. Like I said, I'm 37. I was around before cell phones, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
where you used to have to do the Polaroid and shake the picture, and we all had red eyes,
Yep.
So I'm not much of one for pictures and videos and stuff like that, but you can find some on my Facebook page that other people that videoed sent me and everything. Flow Grappling, I got some on Flow Grappling. I got a highlight reel on there, and I got some like 6 matches on there, but you have to have a subscription to be able to get to those. But most of them are on my Facebook page, and then you can find some on YouTube if you just put my name in.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me myself personally, I don't keep my videos around too much. I just don't. Never really had. I didn't want to feel like I was bragging or like throwing myself out there a bunch. I kind of just, I've always kind of stayed in the background and was the quiet guy who sits back and just kind of watches and observes for the most part.
The most dangerous.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I wanted to ask, like, with some of these championships that you've won, like, what was your like sweetest moment out of like the
Oh man. So I guess if I had to choose a championship that there was 2 that I won. I won in the same month because I was pretty avid. I competed. If I could, I would compete every weekend. Like within the last 3 months, I think I've competed every weekend but one, roughly.
Oh, wow.
And that's just because I have to do it. But I would say like the Indiana State Championship and the IBJJF Chicago Open, I won those both in the same month, and I won 8 matches straight and didn't get a point scored on me.
Wow.
And I had beaten world champion actually at that time. I beat him, and then I also beat a guy who was in the UFC that fights 135, 145 now, I do believe. But I beat all these guys and didn't get a point scored on me. I felt like I was at my best. Everything that I was working for my game plan at that time was really coming together, which was I'm going to sit down. I'm not going to let them pass. And I'm going to fend off until I feel something's there, and I'll attack and I'll get the win either via points or submission. So yeah, I would say those 2. And that was like 2015, I believe, is when I was doing that. My favorite match of all time is one I lost, though. It was against a Division I wrestler in the absolute at the international championship. So if I had to talk like about an individual championship, I would say the biggest one is the IBJJF championship. That was an international championship. All the best guys usually win those tournaments. So I was lucky enough to win one,
That's
but
awesome.
it was a lot of my coach just giving me a game plan that played to my attributes and my game well. And then I actually, for once, I seen it through, and I kept pace. So it felt real good. But there was a match after I won that one that I got put in. First match of the absolute in Chicago. This guy was 320 pounds, and he wasn't just 320 pounds. He wrestled for Columbia, which is Division I
Yep.
college. He wrestled for them at 285.
Ooh.
So I had to go against this guy, and he's a monster, right? He's probably 6'7", just huge, most powerful individual I've ever come across. But I ended up making the whole 6-minute match against him, and I ended the match in a rolling omoplata shoulder lock from the side ride position. So I lost the match by points because he passed my guard one time for like 5 seconds. And you have to get points, you have to hold for 3, and then you get your points. So he beat me 3-0 because I threw up a triangle, had a little bit of ego, and I'm like, I'm going to submit this big guy when I shouldn't have. Some people you just can't submit, and you need to just stay sharp and outposition them. And I kind of got a little egotistical, and I went for the triangle, and he passed off of it and held long enough to get the points. But that match really proved, because I always wanted to prove I can beat the biggest, that being little doesn't always hinder you, like you can still do a lot more than what people think, like I'm literally the size of some 14-year-olds. So I wanted to prove that that if you do the right thing, and if you're smart enough, I mean, mainly smart enough, like you have the right game plan, you can win that match, you can win that fight, and like we said earlier, that transfers into the rest of life. The confidence I got from that, even though I lost, was tremendous.
Yeah. Gives you like, hey, I just went all 6 minutes with a collegiate athlete.
Yeah.
Over 300 pounds.
Right.
Yeah, definitely should give you some confidence.
To make you think, Brock Lesnar, I think he competed at 265 collegiately D1. So this dude was 285, and he went to nationals 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
So he wasn't, he was a stud. So when I went for that omoplata finish, though, he just kind of pinched his arm to the side, and I was just kind of stuck there flailing. Even though I was attacking, I didn't feel like I was attacking. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was an experience, and it was still to date probably one of my favorite matches. Even though I've competed against the best 145ers and under in the world.
Mhm.
So I've fought, yeah, that's some of the top tier guys, and obviously they killed me too. But it was just cool to be able to be out there with them, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I always thought about doing, if I ever got into competition, is to start training jujitsu and getting into some jujitsu competitions because I love to compete. And I don't know if I'm 32, so I don't know if I want to jump into some MMA or anything like that.
I get that, man. MMA is different. Like I even though I've fought and I had, you know, enough fights, and I fought the #1 ranked guy my last fight as an amateur in the state at 45, and I'm like a 35er. I hate the weight. I hate the build up. Like all you can think about is this fight for weeks, and you're snapping at people over food. You know, like how could you eat that in front of me right now? You know, just little things when you're just projecting your feelings about the fight onto everyone around you.
Yeah,
And I didn't like being that person, so I kind of went the jujitsu route because it's not near as bad, you know.
yeah. Is it
And
okay?
yeah, so but if you're thinking about doing jujitsu, man, do it, man. It's great. It's fun. You only get as much as you put into it, you know. So if you want to have fun and have a good time, it is fun. It is a good time. It can get rough, but you know, I'm sure if you wrestled, it can't get any worse than that, you know.
Yeah, I
I
rode a
would
little bit in class, and wrestling definitely helps just to understand the body and how to spread your weight out and stuff like that. So
Yeah, those are the worst times. There's like, especially wrestlers with good jujitsu knowledge and submission knowledge, like they give you the hardest time because the whole time they're gonna try to smash you. There's not like the traditional jujitsu guy who lays back and is pretty passive. Like these guys learn to use. It's not even true jujitsu, you know what I mean? We've Americanized it, and it's now like the best way to put it I can think is like a mixed grappling arts. It's not, you go to a jujitsu tournament, you're not seeing just pure jujitsu. You're seeing wrestling, you're seeing catch wrestling, you're seeing judo, you're seeing all these grappling arts mixed into one. And that's what I love about jujitsu is the rule set and everything is okay with that, you know. And we can, where in the beginning they call it the gentle art, and like we can be passive, more passive with it and easily get people into submissions. That's starting to go away. If they know something, you're gonna have to put some grit into it, you know, especially
yeah,
now. You know, we Americanize everything and make it hard and fast and better, you know, we
yeah,
try to.
yeah.
So yeah, you know, it's just one of those things.
All right. Yeah, in your opinion, no gi versus gi competition. Like, what do you like better?
I love no gi. I'm a no gi guy, but that's probably because I don't know the gi as well. There's so much more to learn in the gi. And it takes so much time. If you see a really good gi practitioner, like that's awesome. Like the gi is fun because it opens up so many doors, and people are like, "Oh, well, you'll never be wearing that in the street," you know. Well,
Mhm.
I wear clothes. You know,
Yeah,
most of us wear clothes. I've never fought on the beach.
yeah,
You know, I live in Ohio. Most people, it's cold a lot of the time, so most people have jackets on which have lapels. So it's actually more practical to learn in the gi for self-defense and street defense. All right, here's my daughter. Say hi, Ridley. She's the only one that looks like me, you know. So out of the three that I have,
yeah.
but
Well, that's all.
but I'm definitely a no-gi guy. I prefer no-gi, but like I said, it's not because gi. Like I hate the gi. I really enjoyed the gi. I've won some state titles in the gi, and I've won some competitions in the gi. But I just don't know it as well as no gi, so I'm comfortable with no
Yeah,
gi.
yeah. I did.
Go out, okay? Go out.
I got in the class, and it's the gi, and I'm like, all right. And we did some. They always do like 15 minutes live. You just roll around what you
Well,
learn.
yeah, a lot of wrestlers hate the gi though, man, because and a lot of athletic people hate it because it takes away your athleticism, it takes away your explosion and your attributes, right?
Yep.
Where when they have handles on your sleeves and your gi, you can't just explode out of it and like kind of, you know,
Oh
it's
yeah.
so
I was moving around, and then I was grappling with one of the women in the class, and she just grabbed both of my wrists, and I was like, I can't get out of here.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you're stuck, right? You have to. So what that does is you have to know the right answers.
yeah,
And what happens when people don't know the right answers or they don't know how to respond to something, they feel dumb. They feel lesser than, and they can't handle that. And this is, as society, this is what we need. I feel we all need to feel lesser than, so we
Yep.
can, help build each other up more.
just humble
'Cause
yourself a little bit and
yeah,
then build back up.
yeah, because that's what it is in the academy. Is that why you see such tight knit groups? People who don't even, maybe I've known you for a year, and I feel closer to you because I know I can trust you. And I know that you're helping me every step of the way, trying to be a better form of me as I'm helping you, trying to be a better form of you. And
Yeah.
that's really what we're about here. We're not really about like, okay, let's achieve all the biggest things in sport has to offer and be a big
Right.
name. No, we want to pump out good people in
Mhm.
general. We just want people who are down to earth, want to help everybody around them succeed so they can be more successful. Like one thing I always say is like, I'm not successful without each person in this room. There's no way I could be, right? So their success is ultimately my success. If they're having success in life, I'm having success in life. If I'm being successful, they're being successful. So that's what we try to cultivate here at Black Market and Defiance is good people who are willing to help everybody around them. And then it has that butterfly effect or ripple effect. Like, try not, it's not like it's a global thing. We're just trying to affect what's closest to us and what's in front of us. So maybe that can ripple effect out, to
Yeah.
as far as it can.
Yeah, that's
But
beautiful to hear. Because like when you have a great community that lifts people up and you just get that close knit family feeling,
yeah,
you just excel so much more in the sport as well in life. Like you just bring so much joy to people.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it's about. Everybody, it's one of those things. I hate to sound too cliche and stuff, but it's all about love. It's all about
Yeah.
happiness.
Mhm.
Everybody can feel the energy in the room when someone comes in and they're down or something's wrong. Like we've all done it. Someone comes in, they're all head down, stomping around, whatever. We're like, oh geez, what's wrong with them? Right. Like we got to pay attention to this energy more often,
Mhm.
and that's one thing I'm big on is like, if I feel that energy, I'm going to ask that person, I'm not just going to
Yeah.
be like, oh, and keep my head down. No, I want to know what's wrong. Can we help you? Is there something we can do?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
just how it should be. Right.
That's awesome to hear. That's great.
And then we beat each other up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Like, hey, are you okay? Can I choke you a little bit?
5 minute
Yeah,
round. Let's go.
we'll do a round and then we can talk.
See if you feel the same way afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so for people like wanting to get into it and everything like that, what is some advice you would say?
Well, if they're close by, the biggest thing, the hardest thing is just getting in the door, right? Once you're in the door, I promise you, you're gonna like it. You're gonna see that it's not the scary aura that it has, like, oh, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna get beat up, people are gonna rough me up and choke me and hit me. No, that's not the case. We usually help people and coddle people until they're ready for that, and then we turn it up. As it's a progressional thing. You're not just going to come in. Some places it can be rough, but most jiu-jitsu schools, you're going to be helped the whole way. And the hardest part is getting in the door. Once you're in the door, then you're good to go. So I would say if jiu-jitsu is something, or martial arts in general is something that you're looking to do, go for it. Don't think about it. Don't wait, because life happens all the time. Stuff's going to get in the way. You just need to make it happen. You need to get out there, put yourself out there, and take a risk, because like the biggest risks have the biggest rewards usually. And I promise you, if you're suffering from anxiety, you're suffering from like you just can't make it, like you're not confident, it's gonna help. So look up, Google. We're so blessed and spoiled with information these days. It's right in the palm of our hand. Look up a school that's close to you. Go try it out. Usually they have a free trial period. Get in there, do it, because I promise you, if it's something that you're wanting to do, you're gonna like it. You're gonna love it, and it's only up from there. It's not like you're gonna get anything. You're not going to get anything bad out of it, unless you have a bad experience with a bad person, which can happen anywhere at any time.
Yep.
But here in Defiance, Northwest Ohio, you know, like there's not much from Lima to Toledo, and then we're right in the middle, and that's all there was when I first started was Lima and Toledo, and you're gonna pay over $100 a month to be able to go, and I couldn't afford it, so I was like, I'm gonna bring it to my area that's in between there, you know. So Defiance, Paulding, Van Wert, all these places. We've kind of got people who train in each of these places now, and I was the one who kind of brought that around this area because I was a blue belt helping teach at VIP Nails and everything, and that was just a nail salon where kids would come in off the streets, and we would just teach them martial arts for free because they didn't have anywhere to go or anything to do. So we were just there a couple days a week teaching martial arts, you know, and it kind of grew and blossomed from there. Literally started with, for me anyway, not for my instructor Noah, but Black Market started for me, my journey. We had like 4 people in my garage, and then it blossomed into tonight we had over 50 in here. So
Wow.
within a 6-year period. And you know, I got a stack of waivers that's like this, but the number is like this, you know, because we are a very competitive team. But but yeah, you know, I was telling, just do it. You just got to do it. You got to stop holding yourself back from your wants. Don't let, you know, me, I've lived broke to be able to do this stuff and to get to where I'm at, and I'm still skating, you know, skating that line, but it's worth it every moment. The lives you get to change, the people you get to meet, like that's the most important thing is life, is the relationships we make with people. And I've made some of my best relationships through martial arts.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. It's all about building relationships with people and just sharing everybody's experience and lifting people up. So that's awesome what you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you also have a podcast, right?
Yeah, the Sublife podcast. Yep.
Yeah.
Brandon's the magic man on that, right? Like I've had some people tell me like, oh, you need to do a podcast. You need to get out there to help promote the school and everything and help people get to know who you are and the people that are in the school and around the area. Because around here, you know, obviously it's like a lot of places, it's all about football, basketball, your mainstream sports, you know, where martial artists, we kind of just float under the wire, you know. And so with the podcast, Brandon kind of, he worked his butt off and collected a bunch of money, you know, to be able to get the equipment. And he was like, hey, I'm getting this equipment. Will you be interested in hosting? And I'm like, listen, man, I hate the way I sound. Like, this is tough for me to hear myself, right? But I think everybody goes through that.
Yep.
But said everyone on a podcast.
Yeah, right. Ever, right? Like, yeah. So Brandon, I had back in the day, it took us a while to come up with the name. We were just debating like what's the best fit, you know, and I had a t-shirt line that I had started a while back and it died off because I'm always doing things and then life, like I said, takes a hold and kind of dies off. But it was Submission Lifestyle or Sublife brand was the t-shirt line. And I was like, well, we just said, what about Sublife podcast, you know? And then it just kind of stuck, you know, and Brandon started working his magic and we got the kids in here for the intro. I feel like the best part's the intro, right? Like with the kids saying, welcome to the Sublife podcast. And then he sends it off into the music. Like he's done a really good job. He's put his heart and soul into it. You know, I can tell lately he's been missing because he's got a new girlfriend, you know. So have to throw that out there, you know. So that's good for him. So his life is taken off too, you know. He works full time, then he comes in here in the evenings and he's on the podcast, he's doing jujitsu, you know, and he's still making the relationship work. And his family just got a brand new house and stuff. So
that's awesome.
You know, this is the type of people we have, is like we're gonna work hard and we're gonna try to make things happen for each other, you know. So it started off fun and then it just started to blossom, and now we're coming up on the 5th episode, which is actually going to be our co-host Caleb Shanks interviewing me for episode 5, and we're going to try to get that recorded and have it out hopefully by next week. We're going to see, you know, like I said, life happens and we're all pretty busy. But hopefully next week, you know, we just had Quentin on episode 4, you know, and that went real well. He talks about his life and his struggle and his path to where he's at right now. So yeah, you can check it out. It's on, I believe it's on Spotify and YouTube right now. But like I said, the last couple of weeks we've been a little slow, so we're gonna get some out there soon.
Okay,
But a lot of
awesome.
good information on there.
Awesome. Yeah. So coming up, I don't want to hold you all night, but it was been great to get to know you and get to know what you guys are all about. Yeah. So if you want to tell the people exactly where to find you and
Defiance, Ohio, 1340 West High Street, Black Market Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Defiance. We have other locations. We have Black Market in Picowa. Not sure on the actual address of that one. And then we have Black Market Columbia City also. And then the podcast you can find on the Sublife podcast, you can find that on, like I said, YouTube and Spotify. Other than that, you can check us out on Facebook. We got the Facebook page. The Instagram is which this is kind of funny, Black Market BJJ, but it's abbreviated BMBJJ.
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean it's kind of funny, but I mean trust me, we're not crappy. So we actually got some good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find us on Instagram, and then Facebook is the Black Market Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Defiance. But
awesome.
Other than that, I think that's all I got.
We got one last question from the comments for you there, Justin. Zach says, Justin, don't you have a grappling tournament coming up in on December 2nd there in Defiance?
Yes, I do. I've also dabbled in a little bit of promoting and trying to do my own submission grappling show. It's called the OSS. It's a Ohio Submission Series, the OSS. So like in jiu-jitsu, we always say "oos" to each other, right? So I kind of use that, and I have one December 2nd. So if anybody's interested, it's a very small fee, $20 to get up to 2 grappling matches. And then I always, since there's not a lot of money in this, I try to do a money bracket for the more experienced grapplers so they can get paid. So I do $50 buy-ins and $400 to the winner of an 8-man bracket.
Pretty cool.
Right now I got about 40 competitors coming from all over Indiana, Michigan, locally. But yeah, it's I've been doing it. I think this is my 9th one that we're going to be doing, and I've had some of the best guys in the world compete at it. So it's definitely worth it. Check it out. I have a page on Facebook for it and everything, but if anybody out there is a competitor and they're interested in doing it, just message me personally and I can get you hooked up.
That's awesome. Well, I don't want to hold you all night, but it's been great to get to know you, and we'll definitely be tuning in on some of the podcasts that you guys have. And I think Zach, my other co-founder of Carnage Media, and I might stop by on the 2nd and check things out.
Excellent. So. Yeah, do it. You guys are always more than welcome. If you ever want to come up for a class or anything, come check it out and, come meet everybody, hang out. It's a good time. And if you guys ever need anything, just reach out. We can help you out with whatever you need.
I appreciate
and if we can't, we will tell you we can't.
I appreciate that, Justin.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Yep. So
that's great. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you. It was fun.
Awesome. You have a great night.
You too.
What a great dude.
He's so cool, calm, and collected, but he could turn you into a pretzel in about 5 seconds. So
right.
That was cool. I really enjoyed that, especially listening to somebody who's been there and done that, on the big grappling shows, right? You know what I mean?
Yep. We competed against the best of the best and came out on top. Oh man, I love competition. It makes me want to start training real hard and start entering some competitions. I might have to do that.
I don't know. I hear him talking about fighting 300-pounders, and I'm like, man, I'm really glad people are willing to pay me to talk, because if it weren't, all I could talk my way into is an ass whooping. So yeah, I am always very honored to talk with the real pros. But yeah, I felt it was interesting because he kept talking about those quiet types that, where it's like, yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh man. Yeah. He's exactly the kind of guy you got to worry about there, Justin. So, that is phenomenal, and plenty of shout outs, a bunch of stuff like this from Candace. And thank you all for shouting out in the comments. Justin's an amazing person. We have John almost at the same time Justin was talking about it, shouting out how he started at 16 years old training in a garage. We have Christina in here. We have Brandon in here. Quentin is in here, by the way, as well. Shout out, Quentin. Thank you for coming by. Q, one of my favorite fighters to share the commentary desk with. I hope.
Congrats on the win.
Congrats on the win. Hope we get to call a fight together again soon. But I know
you debut. That sounded pretty good, Kev.
Yeah, right. I was just about to say he's probably got bigger and better things to do than talk to me. Got that pro debut coming up, but hey, it's all right. It's all right. Oh, appreciate it. Yes, and thank you again, Brandon. Yeah, we appreciate it. I know you were vital in setting all of this stuff up, man.
Yes, thank you, Brandon.
Shout out to you. And hey, open invitation. You want to come talk to us as well, man? That'd be great. I know. You and I could probably talk a lot. I don't know. You will have more fighting experience than I do, but we could probably talk a lot about running a podcast and all the adventures that can lead you into. So thank you, Brandon, as well. So I will hand it back off to the boss man, Wade. Wade, where are we going from here?
UFC. You guys tune into that?
What a weekend. I'll tell you what, that's about as good of a MSG show as you possibly could have asked for, right?
I told you that this is going to be an underrated card. Told you.
There's nothing else to say. Literally every single fight in the main card ended in a knockout. Yep. There was a really good knockout from Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, man, he was on the wrong end of a decision against Paddy Pimblett. Everybody knows it. Go fight with anybody on Twitter. He came back and had an absolutely brutal KO to round out the early prelims. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to shout out Jared Gordon before we moved into the big stuff for sure.
Yeah, that was a nice knockout. And it was like nice because he got short-handed with Gordon or with Pimblett because he was the big name,
I'm a hater. I admit it. I'm a hater.
I am too. I don't think he's as good as everybody thinks he is.
You can't leave your chin up here. You're not going to beat any of the good guys. Like Gaethje, you're going to sleep. Oliveira, you're going to sleep. Tony Ferguson, man, I had something in my throat there. You're going to sleep. Like, you know what I mean? It's just. But
Tony Ferguson's already been like a crazy one with his mindset and what he does. He's been hanging out with David Goggins and training with him. So I feel bad for Paddy.
There is no winner in that fight if you're Paddy Pimblett. If you lose, you're the dude who lost to a 39-year-old 6-fight losing streak, Tony Ferguson.
Yep.
If you win, you're the dude that beat 39-year-old 6-fight losing streak, Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, he was already on his way out. So
you better hope for a draw, and at least it's competitive. That's his best out there. I will say the only sad part of the night for me for UFC 295 was Roosevelt Roberts lost via submission. For those of you who don't know, he was on this season, the most recent season of The Ultimate Fighter. He was on Michael Chandler's team. He was a 155 vet who ended up getting cut from the UFC, but they gave him a chance on The Ultimate Fighter. He won his first fight in like 11 seconds or something like that. Came out, got a real quick knockout in the first episode, and then lost a close, I want to say he lost a decision in his next fight, but they gave him another shot, but unfortunately he came up short. But
yeah, I liked Roosevelt on the show.
One of the craziest things that I've ever seen on Tough was he missed weight by like a quarter of a pound. So he like cut off all his dreads to make weight.
Yep.
And I was like, that is commitment. That's chasing a dream. That's being out there to do what you're supposed to do.
It takes so long to get those dreads and willing to cut it off like that. He was serious and committed.
But Wade, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the main card, and there was just nothing but
to open up with Diego. Whoo, man. I like Diego. And
Diego Lopez is a name that people need to learn more.
They do. He's so good. And he came in and and knocked dude out. Like he knocked him out. He was out on his feet. He goes down. I don't know how he fell, but he was all awkward. And then he finished it off. And I was like, wow, I knew this kid had special. Like he's gonna do some big things.
To follow that up though with I can never pronounce this dude's name right. Saint Denis versus Frivola. That head kick.
Woo!
Man, if you guys another good video I saw this weekend was Dylan Budka's live reaction to this. It was awesome. It was so funny. But
I didn't see that.
Just threw up a head kick, got him, and Frivola went down. Matt Frivola's a tough dude too. Like he's not just some tomato can that the UFC brought in on 4 days' notice. Like he's been around the block. So very, very exciting knockout there. But honestly, Wade, one of my performances of the night has to go to Jessica Andrade.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Dern is good. Like you don't headline fight nights for no reason, but Jessica Andrade just made her look like she'd never thrown a punch before on the field.
Oh yeah.
It was crazy.
Andrade, she's so good. Like her stand-up game is so good and she's so powerful. But she displayed something crazy this time. Like she was so calm and she waited for the most particular moments to explode. And she just made Dern look like she never stood up in her life and was only a jiu-jitsu specialist. And wow. But I would tell you what, Dern is tough.
Yeah, she is. She got knocked down at least 4 times, I want to say, minimum. And she kept getting up and she kept coming forward too. She was the aggressor. Andrade did a great job at countering any punch that she was throwing, mixed in a lot of good kicks. Like she just really made, which is crazy to think about. She made Mackenzie Dern look like she didn't belong in the octagon that night.
Yeah, it's insane. So with that saying, Dern, if she goes back and just like watches it and then like, all right, I'm going in there and I'm going in with these exchanges, but I'm leaving my chin up. Like she goes in and fixes all that technical problems. Oh, she's going to be real dangerous.
And she's still got time too. She's only 30. She's got a little bit yet for sure.
Yeah. And it's not like this loss was like the end of the world. It's Jessica Andrade. She's former champion. Like it wasn't that big of a hit on her. She just needs to go back, work on her stand-up game and tighten that up. And she's going to be a contender, like a real top contender with a great stand-up game.
It can be done. We saw it with Charles Oliveira. You know, he was a big submission guy when he first started, and then he kind of reinvented himself, and now he's one of the best lightweights in the world. So it can happen. I'm a Mackenzie Dern fan, I would say.
I am.
She's got it in her. She can make it happen. However,
these next 2 fights.
I don't even know what to say about the first one. Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich for the interim title. Tom Aspinall, I forget what he did, but he hurt himself like the first session he went in after taking this fight. So he basically didn't train for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And knocked out a dude on a 6-fight first round knockout streak in a minute.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't realize, like people talk about Aspinall's speed, and I didn't really believe in it that well with Sergey because he was just on that 6-fight win streak, all knockouts the first round. Like he's been on a tear.
He's a killing machine.
Yeah. And I didn't think that was going to matter, but who did Tom prove me wrong? He came in with a 1-2, just 1-2 straight, hurt him, followed it up again and put him down. But I will say Sergey did catch him early.
I was like 15 seconds before that, he caught him, and I was like,
yeah.
uh-oh. Tom's in trouble already. And then it's like you blink and Sergey's on the ground. It's over.
Yeah. Wow. That one was my biggest surprise there. I was like, holy cow.
I don't remember if I picked Tom. I think I picked Tom and I picked Yuri this weekend.
You did pick Tom. I picked Sergey.
I also
I picked Tom.
I didn't have it going down quite like that, but yeah.
Not in a minute. Is it ridiculous to say? I know it's early. He doesn't have the undisputed title yet, but with everything that we've seen from Tom Aspinall, with him just being 30, which is a baby for heavyweights.
Oh, yeah.
Could he retire as the greatest heavyweight of all time? Is it too early to start that conversation?
Nope. I think he could do it against Miocic, and then because I think that's going to be the next fight. Because I don't think they're going to wait.
They're not going to wait for John Jones.
They're not going to wait for John Jones. I think he could. By the time John Jones gets back, I think he could handle John Jones pretty good. He just takes so long to get back in the cage all the time, and he's getting older. And not to say that he's going to be a walk in the park because it's John Jones. His fight IQ is ridiculous. Right. And he knows
when you have the resume that he does, like, you learn stuff from everybody that you fight. Like, he's fought guys from Rampage Jackson to, Cyril Gane.
Yeah.
The Ngannou fight is not off the table necessarily. Dana claims it is, but I'm not convinced. I think if they threw enough money at somebody would figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
But Tom Aspinall might be John Jones's worst matchup.
I think so.
He's so fast. He's the biggest difference there is he's a natural heavyweight.
Yeah.
Like, John Jones had to build up to make heavyweight, which is fine. Like, he did a good job with it, but you don't go from weighing 205 to getting up to 250, and you can't tell me that you're going to be completely the same and move the same.
No, he's slower. I think he's slower. Even in that short stint with Cyril Gane, he looks slower to me.
He has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You might be right. I went and pulled up the history. I wanted to look back on Tom Aspinall's fight history just to see. And it looks like now I'd need one of you two to refresh my memory from July 2022, the last loss to Curtis Blades. It says here TKO knee injury. Do you guys remember how that fight was?
Yep.
Yeah. So with that, his most previous loss to that before was in 2016, which was an illegal downward elbow. So shades of John Jones there getting a loss for his elbow strike. So from what I can see, his last true loss was via heel hook against Mark Woodward in 2015. So you know what, Clayton, you might be onto something.
Realistically, Tom Aspinall beats Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades' chin is made out of tissue paper, so
he's not wrong.
Like, Curtis Blades is a good dude. I like all the interviews and stuff I see with him, but like, he just can't take a punch. And if you're a heavyweight, everybody throws big punches. So Curtis Blades is one of the best. I would argue one of the best heavyweight wrestlers ever, but he'll never be a champ because he can't take the punishment at the top.
Yep. If you can't take the punishment, like, at least learn how to bob and weave better.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done. It's easier said than done, but like, you think you'd be working on that hardcore.
Speaking of champs, we got another question from Zach who says Jones and Stipe are fighting is what Dana said. Will that be for a belt? What do you guys think?
Yeah, that'll be for Jones's belt. No matter what, I think if they're both going to retire after that fight.
Oh, I think so.
They're going to make that fight. John Jones is going to ride off into the sunset as the greatest of all time. Yes, go ahead and at me Twitter, CScalina12, come after me. But I think that they both retire, so I don't see. I know we were just talking about the UFC might not want to wait. I don't think they should. I think it would be smarter if they just if they wanted to try. A big thing with Aspinall, to kind of tie it all together, a big thing with Aspinall is he's British. Yep. British MMA is really taking off. I think they had at least 3 events in Britain this year, right, Wade? They had, I think, 3. So, and that's taking off. So overall, I understand the UFC waiting. I don't necessarily agree with it. But yes, that would be for the heavyweight title. And then they would both retire and Aspinall would be elevated to champ at that point.
And then it'll be the greatest what if. We won't get to see Jones v. Aspinall. Although I think even at that point, like I was saying before, I don't know that would really answer any questions at that point. How at Jones at his age versus Aspinall now. sort of just like it'll always be one of those great what if fights. But we had another question in the chat. Apologies, I think I missed this the first time through. So Plagueis on Twitch, shout out. Hey, shout out to our Twitch viewers. We got quite a few in there. I'm loving seeing that. They are probably people have come over from watching Pity and Wolfman over on the Doghouse Sundays at 2 p.m. So shout out. If you want to check that out, make sure you go ahead and follow us on Twitch. That's the only place you can catch that show. Soon, I think we'll have the reruns on our Twitter, or on our, not on our Twitter, on our YouTube account. But if you want to catch it live, that's the only place to catch it right there. Shout out to PittyX_X on Twitch as well. But Plagueis says, what are your thoughts on Kenpo in the ring? Wade, Clayton, any thoughts on that?
I don't know much about it. I think it's like a
karate discipline.
Yeah, like a karate. That's what I was gonna say, like a karate discipline. And I mean, there's been plenty of karate disciplines that have been at the top. I mean, like what's his name? They call him the nicest guy in the ring.
Oh, Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy, yeah. Wonder Boy is a great example of a karate. I think it depends on the tactician in there. There's another one I was thinking about.
The old example of Kenpo would be Lyoto Machida.
Lyoto Machida, that's what I was thinking of. And he's one of the best to ever do it. So I think it could work. You just can't solely just depend on that karate altogether. I think you gotta be well rounded and at least in takedown defense and stuff like that. But karate, Kenpo, it could work.
I will say Kenpo might be the next big thing in MMA. Hot take. We saw recently, like, with Islam and Habib, it's been Sambo, right? That's been the new discipline that everybody's been talking about. But Kenpo could be up there. Ian Gary's really good. Ian Gary's I would say he's a karate-based guy. He throws a lot of dynamic-looking kicks. He's a very good striker. So, and obviously, Wonder Boy. I think that here's another hot take for you guys. I think that my favorite card that I've ever watched, like top to bottom, ever, was last December, UFC Orlando, headlined by Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland.
Ooh,
that was
a good one.
Kevin Holland. So just a little personal backstory there. We all went. That's the weekend before exams in BG. So we all went down to my parents' house to watch the fights, and top to bottom, it was just entertaining. We watched Darren Elkins bleed like 3 gallons worth of blood. My boy Clay Guida earned another decision. Angela Hill earned a decision. Phil Rowe knocked out Nico Price. Eric Anders knocked out Kyle Dawkins. Roman, I can never say this guy's name. The Roman guy that's been around middleweight forever knocked out Jack Hermanson. Sergey Pavlovich knocked out Tai Tuivasa. RDA, unfortunately, did submit my boy Brian Barberina, but the main event of the night was arguably the fight of the year in 2022. Sleeper pick for fight of the year, in my opinion. Kevin Holland basically agreed to have a kickboxing fight with Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
Like, for those of you who don't know, Wonder Boy is 57-0 in kickboxing. Like, the guy's a beast. He's one of the best. I would argue that he is the best pound for pound striker ever. If you want to watch a striking technician, and he's 4 years old, like, he's still in there destroying dudes.
Yeah.
And watching Kevin Holland agree to have a kickboxing fight, like, yeah, man, I'll do that. Like, no, Kevin.
That's why I love Kevin. He's just gonna go in there and test himself and just entertain.
Yeah. But long story short, what I'm trying to say is I picked a large amount of the fights incorrectly that night, so I had to jump in my pond in December. So that was not a great end, but so much fun.
A nice little cold plunge.
But yeah, to summarize, Kenpo could be the next big thing if we see somebody with good takedown defense do it. So I'm excited to see where Kenpo goes for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, karate It's definitely a staple in mixed martial arts, especially in the UFC. You've seen a lot of tacticians do it, so
But
I'm
Wade,
eager to see how it goes.
that leaves one fight.
Yeah, I like Jury. I do. I love his like warrior spirit. Like he's all and he's like so in
That's
tune.
so accurate. Is the funniest part. Like,
I don't know how to explain, but I just love it. I love his attitude. Like he made no excuses. He said, "I just got to get better. Got to learn to get better."
A lot of people were mad that thought it was an early stoppage, but even Yuri was like, "Nah, I was out." Like that. That's the right call. Alex Pereira got the finish of Yuri. 2 minute or like the second round, like last minute of the second round, and called out Izzy.
I know. He said,
"This dude is the biggest hater of all time."
He is.
Like,
the funniest thing, he goes, "Come to daddy."
Like, sorry, man. Like, Izzy's gonna be gone for a minute. I really think he'll take an extended break.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a super active fighter, so he's due for some time. I picked Alex for this fight just because obviously he's got hands of freaking stone. And again, his freaking left hook is deadly, and that's what dropped him.
Nobody can take that. Like, we watched him destroy Sean Strickland with that. Like, that happened at 276. We watched him knock out arguably the greatest middleweight ever, second greatest middleweight ever. Put some respect on Anderson Silva's name, MMA.
Right.
Twitter. But we watched him put him out. We watched him somehow wrestle with Jan Blachowicz enough to get the decision win there.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason that this dude could not retire as one of the best combat sports athletes ever.
For sure.
Because you got to think, he's won 2 Glory kickboxing titles and now 2 high-level MMA titles.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing they were talking about this, too, is that he's had this was his 11th MMA fight, and then that's his like 3rd or 4th fight in the UFC. Like, it's insane the high level that they've came in such a short period of time. So these are some high level guys. And in my opinion, I did think it was an early stoppage at a belt fight. Let him try to come back from it. But at the same time, I don't think Yuri was gonna take the ground and pound. I think he was gonna be out.
He was. If it wasn't stopped, then give him 5 more seconds and he would have really been out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I originally thought it was an early stoppage too, and it wasn't. I actually have to give the shout out. I had to get it queued up over here. I watched a YouTube channel, Brian Sutterer, MD, who is one of those sports doctors who breaks down things like this, try to help explain it to layman's like me. And that video helped convince me that it was a good stoppage. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe even after the fight, I believe he even said it was a good stoppage. But
yeah, he said he was out, which
yeah,
I mean, it just saved him from a lot more damage that he didn't need to take.
Yeah, it's so tough because it's like, yeah, you'd love to give him, because your initial response is like, yeah, you'd love to give him that fighter's chance to just give him 1 or 2 more seconds to see if he can get out of it. But also, it's like you can do a lot of damage to the brain in those 2 seconds, especially with those stone hands we were just talking about. Like, oh man, I don't know. Always, especially as a guy who doesn't get beat up in that ring, a lot of the other Carnage media production team, they at least know what it's like. Most of my injuries came in baseball, football, basketball. I have no idea. So, I'm always going to lean on the side of fighter health and be like, oh yeah, make sure everybody gets home safe and knows what's going on. So I did think it was an incredibly exciting card. I mean, I thought that's the way you would want them to end. Maybe, I mean, those last 2 were pretty quick finishes. Maybe, I would not have minded seeing either of those fights, go a little longer before they reach those ultimate finishes. But it was very exciting. You'd rather have that than, at least a lot of folks would rather have that over some sort of grapple fest. Some sort of where you're counting the points everywhere. So it was something that was very exciting. Another comment here, got to throw this out there because this is just a heartbreaker in the world of combat sports. Although I'd have to say, called it. This is another one I called. Zuckerberg versus Musk is called off by Zuckerberg. I believe he also tore his ACL, but let's be real, that fight was never going to happen.
That was never going to happen.
Yeah, it was never going to. But I think Zuck would have won.
Yeah, we're talking about two men who have spent more than most of us will ever earn just to scrub their own public images and to look as cool as possible. Although, newsflash, boys, neither of you have enough money to ever look cool, but that's okay. I'm right there with you. I'm bald, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just spend your money on things you actually can have. Anyway, guys, where were we?
I think we're at the Wrestling Minute.
I actually have one more question for you, Wade, before we jump into Wrestling Minute. Who is Alex Pereira's first title defense? Who do you think that the UFC should book against him?
Great question.
Ooh, Jamal Hill.
Yep.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say.
He's gotta be the next one.
If they're willing to wait, he's coming off a torn. I believe he tore his Achilles. Maybe he was playing in like some basketball tournament during International Fight Week and tore his Achilles, which about sums up the longevity of light heavyweight division champions these days, anyway. But I think if they're willing to wait, you give it, and this is the Northwest Ohio kid in me because we could all go. You do Pereira versus Jamal Hill, Little Caesars Arena, Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, yes.
Jamal Hill's home area.
That would be amazing. I would go.
Kev, make sure you clip that so we could throw that on Twitter and at every single person in the UFC brass.
There it is. Yep. Mark it. 106. Someone leave me a comment. I'll have to come back to it. Pity has another question for us before we move on. I don't know that any of us can answer it, but it's fun to speculate. Easy for me to say. When are we going to see Dylan the Mindless Hulk Budka fight again? Any of you guys have any feelings about that?
He's been very active, very talkative about getting in the ring before the end of the year. So maybe
what did he just tweet about and post on Facebook? When's their next event? He was talking about hitting weight on a certain day because he wanted to be available in case there was an injury. Basically saying December 2nd, that it is. Yep. He's like, I'm going to be ready on the 2nd just to step in on any fight, which I don't know. That says something, doesn't it? Just like, I'll go in cold. I'll fight whoever on no notice.
I'll tell you what, if that would have happened, he goes in and gets that dub, Dana will love him because Dana loves when people just don't say no and he can count on you to go in and step in and be entertaining.
Dude, that's the stuff you get your Rocky movie made about years later, where it's like, oh yeah, he just came in, called his shot, said, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna make sure I can make weight just in case somebody's hurt, and then gets put into some crazy matchup and comes out on top. I mean, in a way, is that not sort of what happened for the Contender Series? I don't know that it was quite that short of notice, but we're talking days, right?
5 days.
It was
5 days, right? Yeah, and it wasn't the prettiest win, and Dylan would tell you that, and I think Dana said it, but that wasn't what was important, given the fact that we called you in on 5 days, and you came in and you won a fight, and for what it's worth, it wasn't that fight wasn't exciting, and it wasn't necessarily Dylan's fault that it wasn't exciting either. Like it wasn't Dylan that was hanging on for dear life, as I would say, with all due respect.
Even Dana said that afterwards. Like he was like, and I will blame all of the boringness of this fight on Chad.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, he couldn't. There was nothing that he could do to mitigate Dylan's wrestling other than hold on.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, not the performance you maybe want on the Contender Series, but it was good for two reasons. Number one, he won.
Yep.
That's the important thing. Number 2, like we touched on, short notice. You will stick around in the UFC if you take short notice fights. Dana will keep you around if you take short notice fights. That's a great first impression to make.
Kevin Holland does it. He steps in, and he's a great example.
Yeah.
You can rise
Kevin
to stardom
Holland
with
does it. Sam Alvey lost 8 straight fights, and Dana kept him around because he would step in on short notice if needed.
Yep.
Like, the UFC needs short notice guys. This is a crazy sport. Injuries happen. So, very.
And be talented like Dylan. So he's going to do some great things. I can't wait to see it.
But with that, Kev, I think the floor is yours.
Speaking of injuries, gentlemen, in the upcoming Survivor Series on World Wrestling Entertainment, it is rumored that one Mr. Randy Orton will be finally returning from injury. Yeah, there we go. Zach, Wrestling Minute time, baby. He said, oh, yeah, he mentions the 3 cut from heavyweight from Dylan. That was impressive.
That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight to lose in 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nuts. It is time for the Wrestling Minute. So, yes, Randy Orton expected to come back. Now, Wade, is this one that rings any nostalgia bells for you or guys in the audience? Randy Orton, a second generation, maybe a third generation wrestler, actually been around for quite some time. Wade, do you remember this guy?
Oh, yeah. Good old Randy Orton. I like him.
The rattlesnake, that RKO. Now, those of you who maybe didn't grow up watching Randy Orton, you probably know him. Of all the wrestlers that aren't John Cena and The Rock, Randy Orton has probably been the one to seep his way into the mainstream because of all those RKO memes about how it comes out of nowhere and you get those, people doing epic fails and someone will edit Randy Orton into it.
Yeah.
And then you get Jim Ross going, by God, it's the RKO. Yeah. So and once again, I don't know how long we're going to get to keep this gig going, this bit where the Wrestling Minute is somehow still about a wrestler from 20 years ago, but it just keeps trucking along, guys. So we got yet another weekend of just nostalgia for the wrestling product. Although another fun bit, guys, I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. The biggest draw in all of wrestling, Roman Reigns, the World Wrestling Entertainment undisputed universal champion of the world, however that works, has wrestled, count it, 11 times. And based on the way WWE, they don't call them pay-per-views anymore, they are premium live events because of the Peacock deal. Because of the schedule, we already know Roman Reigns will not be at Survivor Series, which is essentially the Thanksgiving PLE. He's not going to wrestle again in 2023. So that is 11 times that the biggest money draw of the biggest pro wrestling company in the world has wrestled. Compare that to 52 times he wrestled last year. What are your thoughts on that, guys? Is that not enough? Are they smart to save a guy who's making them this much money to only wrestle at the biggest pay-per-views of the year? Any thoughts on that? We're all in the fight business. Yeah. Theirs are just predetermined. The rest is very similar. You're trying to hype up fights. Obviously you wouldn't want your primo champion guys fighting week after week after week.
Yeah.
It is, don't kid yourself, even though the outcomes may be scripted, it is an incredibly painful business. Wade heard this with me on the Joe Rogan podcast. Kurt Angle, you might have heard of him. He's an Olympic gold medalist, won a gold medal with a broken neck. He will tell you that pro wrestling was the most physically demanding thing he ever did. So it is not to say that this isn't a grueling business, but what are your guys' thoughts on the biggest money in the business working less than once a month this year?
I think it's great.
I want that schedule. Yeah.
I think that's very smart. Like you mitigate too much risk of injury. And then you can just play a storyline, right? So you can have him pop in here and there and just really sell a storyline. And then boom, a couple months later, he's in on a PLE premium line event and watch the money flow.
That's right. He is The Rock's cousin, probably looking to get into Hollywood at some point. So
Yeah.
they have carried lots of promos. And here's another nostalgic name. His right-hand man, his manager, is Paul Heyman. So he does have the guy, one of the top 5 all-time speakers when it comes to the game of pro wrestling. And if there's ever a guy to draw out a storyline and keep you interested while the guy is not actually there to fight, it would be Paul Heyman. So we got that. Pity agrees in the comments. Clayton, do you agree? Is this the right strategy? Was this what you would do if you were put in charge?
There's 2 ways to look at this, right? Like on one hand, obviously, which is probably the smarter thing, like we've talked about, you're saving your star. You gotta keep the guy who's exactly Pitt. You gotta keep the guy who's bringing in the money healthy. But to kind of play devil's advocate here, talking to arguably the greatest pro wrestler of all time, Ric Flair, on the Joe Rogan podcast, listening to him, he wrestled like every night. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, he would go out there and put on shows in like random towns all over America. And like he built his brand that way. So like there's 2 ways you can look at it. It's probably the smart thing to do, especially in today's age, to keep your star healthy, especially he's 38. Like he's banged up probably, I'm sure. He's got some injuries that we probably don't even really recognize. But overall, yeah, it's probably the smarter thing to do. But like, what the hell? I wish I could only work once a month, less than once a month.
Right.
We're in the wrong business, you guys. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you never hear about Michael Cole or Jim Ross only announcing the pay-per-views, Clayton. So you and I, we picked the wrong gig, man. But other than that, guys, we are gearing up. In future wrestling minutes will be heavily revolving around Sting and Ric Flair and the rated R superstar Edge, Adam Copeland, the artist formerly known as Edge, as Sting is headed towards his retirement in February, and his triple threat match is going to be with Sting and Darby Allin versus Christian Cage and his 2 flunkies, who you guys won't know. I'll spare you. The one guy's name is Luchasaurus. All right, I try to present pro wrestling as something that's awesome and something that you can get behind, and then one of the 2 biggest companies in the world continues to promote a guy who dresses like a dinosaur and calls himself Luchasaurus, and he's supposed to be a big scary heel. They even copied Kane's music. They painted their dinosaur black and red, and he comes out to music that sounds like Kane's music, and it's just like, but you won't change his name to something. I mean, I get it. The Undertaker is pretty comical when you think about it. He's an undead guy like Kane. It's all of it, but at least his name wasn't, Undy the dinosaur. Like, come on, man. Like Luchasaurus. Come on, man. So that's it, guys. That is the Wrestling Minute. I wonder what's going on Monday Night Raw right now. Probably something else for me to make fun of, but don't worry. We'll have more for you next week.
Awesome. Just want to say thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, I want to thank Justin and Brandon and the support of the podcast and us here at Carnage Media. It was a joy to get to know Justin, so thank you. Thank you, Sublife. Yes, check them out. As always, you can catch us on Carnage Media PPV on Instagram, Discord, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I think I got them all. So I'm going to pass it off to you guys.
Patreon's coming soon. Clayton, what about you, sir? Where can they find you?
You guys can find all my personal social medias, Instagram and Twitter, at cscalina12 right there. Make sure that you guys come and start an MMA conversation with me. I will respond to you, I promise. And make sure to check out my podcast, Hot Take Sports. You can follow us on all our social medias at Hot Take Sports 16. We are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But Kev, before we kick it back over to you, there's a very important football game tomorrow that I would like to make a bet with you about.
Uh-oh. I know it's coming.
For those of you who don't know, University of Toledo plays BGSU tomorrow. And Kev, the losing school, I go to Bowling Green, you're a UT alum, loser has to rock just the mustache at the next pay-per-view we work.
Ooh, you're on, sir. I agree. I agree to that deal. That's fantastic.
I see yours is growing in there. Nice.
It's getting there. It's getting there. I had to trim it up a little bit this morning to make sure I wouldn't get yelled at PT, but I would let it grow for the pay-per-view for sure.
If I lose, Clayton, you'll have to be lead anchor that day because there's a photo of me the last time I wore a mustache, and I am crying because I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and it looked so funny. I was laughing so hard, I was crying at my own face. That mustache alone will get me not allowed within 100 feet of a school. I think it's a very, very bad mustache. So, of course, Zach wants to see me embarrassed. So I love that. No, you're on. I accept your bet, Clayton. I look forward to that. So if you're looking for my future horrible mustache pics, you can find them on Twitter and Instagram at KevNevick_. Also, if you like more sports stuff, you can find me on the Bite Size Sports Network. I run our basketball program called The Bounce. Every Thursday at 9 p.m. We mainly talk about the NBA, but we do keep our eye on college basketball so we can have you prepped for next year's draft. I also cover the Indianapolis Colts for the Horseshoe Pride podcast and the Bite Size Colts podcast. If you're into nerd stuff, I work with a few friends on a little show called Dweeb with 2 Ds. We talk Star Wars, comic books, Marvel stuff. And of course, I have this wonderful new banner that was gifted to me from my favorite and the most rapidly growing comedy podcast in all of Midwest Ohio, The Clout Route. Tuesdays and Sundays, 6 to 8 p.m. Me and Danny, 2 bald guys with beards. You decide which one is which. If you can tell us apart, I don't know. But that's about it, guys. Sorry that it gets long. You can tell I'm working real hard to do this thing full time, right? I got we almost got a show for every day of the week. All right, I'm getting there. I'll have a link tree soon. But anyway, that's it for me. I'll hand it back off to Wade, our gracious host. Thank you again to Justin and Brandon from Sublife for working with us and making this happen. It's been a great time. Can't wait to talk to you, Brandon, and can't wait to bring more episodes of Carnage Unleasd to the gang.
Absolutely. With that said, tune in next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys enjoy your night. Thank you.